I never expected my sisters agreed to lead to forged papers and our mother's mysterious. My name is Marcus, I'm 41, and I thought my family was complicated enough. I live just outside Denver, in a 2-story house I bought after my divorce. It's modest, quiet, the kind of place where I thought I could reset my life. I've been working as an accountant for 20 years, never broke the law, never even cheated on my taxes. I liked order. I liked knowing where things stood. But everything changed 2 weeks after Mom died. It was a cold Thursday in February when I got the call. I was reviewing spreadsheets when my phone buzzed. Unknown caller. "Marcus, it's Rachel," my sister said, her voice trembling slightly. My stomach clenched. Did something happen? "It's Mom. She passed away in her sleep. The nurse found her this morning." The words didn't register at first. Mom had been sick. Yes, early stage dementia, but she wasn't dying. She still FaceTimed me twice a week. Still laughed at my terrible jokes. I flew to San Jose the next day. The house smelled exactly like I remembered, a lavender and cinnamon tea, but colder. Like the warmth I'd left with her. Rachel greeted me at the door, dressed in black, eyes puffy but sharp. She always looked composed, even in grief. That was Rachel's thing. "I've already spoken to the lawyer," she said quickly. "She left everything to us, equal split." "Wait," I said. "Did she update the will? I thought the old one still had Uncle Greg in it." Rachel waved her hand. "No, she changed it last year. I have a copy." But something was off. At the memorial, I have heard Aunt Linda whisper to my cousin, "Funny how Rachel and Mom signed those new documents so close to our last episode." That night, I stayed late at Mom's house. I couldn't sleep. I walked through the hallways to touch the old family photos, remembered her soft humming when she cooked. At 2:47 a.m., I noticed something strange. The bottom drawer of Mom's writing desk was locked. That drawer had never been locked. I rummaged through the kitchen until I found a thin busted knife, then knelt and popped it open. Inside was a worn leather folder labelled "Will Do Not Destroy." I opened it. The will inside was dated 2018. It left 50% to me, 30% to Rachel, and 20% to charity. It had Mom's signature. 2 witnesses. A notary stamp. That wasn't the version Rachel gave the lawyer. My hands were shaking. My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my ears. Had Rachel faked a new will to take more money? I stared at the signature again, then noticed a tiny detail of the last letter in Mom's name, the E in Elaine, looked differently than every other signature I'd ever seen. That E wasn't hers. And then it hit me. If Rachel faked the will, what if she had a hand in Mom's? 2. I barely slept. My mind kept racing through every interaction I'd had with Rachel over the past year. The way she always rushed Mom off calls. How she suddenly took over as a medical proxy without asking me. The next morning, I confronted her in the kitchen. "Hey, Rach, can we talk about the will?" She didn't look up from her coffee. "I already sent everything to the lawyer, Marcus." "Yeah, how about that? I found a copy in Mom's drawer, dated 2018. Her head snapped up. "What?" "It's signed, notarized, and it doesn't match what you gave the lawyer." She froze. Blinked once. Twice. Then leaned on the counter like nothing happened. "That's the old one. She updated it in December." "Where's that version?" I asked. "I have a scanned copy. Mum didn't want to stress with paperwork during hospice. She signed it while we were on a Zoom call with the lawyer." "Zoom call?" My stomach turned. "Send me the recording," I said. "Lawyers always record those sessions." She looked at me flatly. "No." "Why not?" She stood up suddenly, voice rising. "Because I'm tired. Marcus, I spent every damn day with her while you sat in Denver doing nothing. Don't lecture me about what she wanted." There it was. The crack. I left the kitchen without another word. 2 hours later, while Rachel was out getting flowers, I called Mom's lawyer, Joanne Mitchell. She remembered me instantly. "Marcus, I'm so sorry about your mother." "Thank you. I need to ask, did you ever meet with Mom on a video call in December?" There was a pause. "No, I hadn't spoken to her since 2021. Why?" My pulse surged. "Because Rachel told me you helped Mom sign a new will on Zoom." "That's not true. Rachel sent me a scanned PDF. She said Mom signed it in front of a neighbour." "Which neighbour?" "She never gave me a name, said they moved out afterward." It all stank. I asked Joanne to pause everything, freeze the estate process. She agreed, but warned me, "If this is fraud, you'll need to act fast. Probate moves quickly in California." That night, I opened Mom's laptop. Thankfully, Rachel hadn't changed the password, peachcobbler52. I went straight to her Zoom history. December 12th, 4:02 p.m. There was a call, but it wasn't with a lawyer. It was a one-on-one with someone named Greg Holt. Greg Holt. Uncle Greg, the same uncle Mom removed from the will in 2018 after he borrowed $80,000 and never paid it back. He lived in Nevada now. Why the hell was he on the Zoom call that day? I played the recording. The grainy video flickered. Rachel sat beside Mom, whose eyes looked foggy. She kept asking what day it was. Uncle Greg's voice echoed from the speaker. All right, Elaine, just say the words exactly like we practiced. It's for clarity. Rachel whispered something. Mom repeated, I leave everything to my daughter, Rachel Holt. She didn't sound like herself. And suddenly I remembered, Mom had stopped taking calls for 3 days after that. She told me she was sick. Had they drugged her? I felt bile rise in my throat. Just then, a voice startled me from the hallway. What the hell are you doing on her laptop? It was Rachel. And she was holding Mom's urn. Not in grief. Like a threat. I stood slowly, closing the laptop with trembling fingers. Put it down, I said, my voice low. Rachel tilted her head, still gripping the ceramic urn like she might have it. You shouldn't be digging through Mum's things, she said coldly. You are not staying here anymore. I just watched the December 12th Zoom call. Uncle Greg was on it, not a lawyer. She didn't even flinch. Sir? So, he coached Mum's were saying what you wanted. That's fraud, Rachel, and you damn well know it. Her lips curled. You always thought you were smarter than me, Marcus, but where were you when she needed help paying bills, when she started forgetting names? I'm the one who moved in, drove her to appointments, fed her when she forgot how to use the microwave. You did that to manipulate her, I snapped. Not because you cared. She laughed, bitter and sharp. You never saw what she was like when you weren't around. The guilt trips, the favoritism. You always got the praise, the attention. I got the scraps. That shut me up. Because deep down, I'd always suspected it was true. Mom used to brag about my job, my house, my steady income even in front of Rachel. But that didn't justify this. I stepped closer. We can still fix this. Give the lawyer the real will. Tell her the truth. If you don't... She cut me off. If I don't, what? You'll run to the cops, call the news, go ahead. But know this, if I go down, Greg goes down too. And he's not going quietly. Pyrrhic. The money Mom forgave. The house he borrowed against. And suddenly it clicked. This wasn't just about the inheritance. It was about debt. Rachel didn't need the money out of spite. She needed it because she was in deep with Uncle Greg. But before I could say a word, she dropped the urn. It shattered against the hardwood. Ash burst out in a great cloud across the floor. You want to talk about Mom's legacy? She hissed. There it is. I lunged for her, not to hurt her, to stop her from smashing anything else, but she shoved past me and stormed out the door. The silence after was unbearable. All I could do was sweep up the pieces of the urn, coughing through the cloud of ash and tears. At 1:22 a.m., I got a text from an unknown number. You should stop asking questions, Marcus, you're next. No name. Just one photo attached. A picture of my car taken that night. Outside the house. From the woods across the street. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every creak of the old floorboards, every gust of wind felt like someone creeping closer. By 6:00 a.m. I'd packed my bag, but before I left, I took one last look at the photo from the text, the one of my car. The angle was strange. Too high for someone just standing in the woods. I zoomed in and saw something that made my blood run cold. In the corner of the image was a sliver of siding white with chipped green paint. A house. Hidden deep behind the tree line. I remembered it. Years ago, Mom mentioned a place back there, an old hunting cabin the neighbours used to rent out to strange folks. It had no driveway, no mailbox. Almost forgotten. I got in my car and drove to the edge of the property. I left it parked where the photo showed and started walking into the woods, sticking close to the trail. It took 10 minutes of weaving through branches and overgrown brush before I saw it, a run-down one-story shack with a rusted tin roof. No lights, but a faint trail of smoke from the chimney. Someone was inside. I crouched and crept to the side window. Through the grime, I could just barely make out a man sitting at a table, pacing through paperwork. Uncle Greg. He looked rough with grey beard, gaunt face, bloodshot eyes. On the table beside him were stacks of envelopes, receipts, and something that made my chest tighten, a checkbook in my mother's name. I took out my phone and snapped pictures. Then I saw it. On the wall behind him, pinned with tape, was a timeline. Willow deck 12. Elaine's meds, increased dosage, deck 813. Marcus' arrival, Fab 10, move cash by then. They'd planned everything. From her medication to my return. They thought I wouldn't look deeper. That I'd take Rachel's word and walk away. But I couldn't. As I pulled back to leave, my foot snapped the twig. Loud. Chop. Greg's head jerked toward the window. I ran. Branches tore out my arms as I sprinted back through the trees. I didn't look back until I was at the edge of the lawn. My heart pounding, I dove into the driver's seat and peeled out onto the road. Back at the house, I locked every door and uploaded the photos to a cloud drive. Then I called Aunt Linda. Marcus, it's early. What? I need to ask you something. Did Mom ever change her medication dosage in December? Long pause. No, she was on the same schedule for months. Why? Because someone did change it. Greg was involved. And Rachel. Aunt Linda went silent. Then, I thought I was crazy for thinking it. but I overheard Rachel telling someone on the phone she needed Mom listed just one last time. You heard that? I asked. She nodded, voice trembling. At the hospital, December 13. There was something else in her voice. Something I hadn't heard before. Thea. And then she whispered, Marcus, there's something you don't know. About Rachel, about your father. My father? He didn't die in that crash like we were told. The line went dead. I stared at my phone for a long time, the words echoing in my head like a drumbeat. My father didn't die in the crash. The crash had been the reason my parents' marriage fell apart. I was barely 10 years old when it happened, but I remember it vividly, the police, the shattered windshield, the empty seat next to Mom at the funeral. My father was gone. He'd driven off the road in the rain. I was told it was an accident, a tragic mistake. But now Aunt Linda's words were tearing through that memory. I didn't waste time. I grabbed my keys and rushed to Linda's house, just outside of town. She wasn't home when I arrived, so I started going through her drawers, desperate to find something that made sense of all this. I flipped through old family photos, letters, and then, tucked in the back of a drawer, I found an envelope with my name written on it. Inside was a faded letter addressed to Aunt Linda from someone I didn't recognize. Marcus is the key. You need to get him to trust you before it's too late. The truth about his father cannot remain hidden. Rachel will destroy him if you don't act fast. Tell him the truth before it's too late. Your brother is still alive. My hands were shaking as I read those words over and over. Your brother is still alive. I didn't know what to think. Who had written this? And why was Linda hiding it from me all these years? I shoved the letter in my pocket and left the house. Back at Mom's place, I went to the basement, where we used to store family records. I rummaged through old boxes, searching for anything that might explain what Aunt Linda meant. That's when I found a small box marked Dad's belongings. Inside, there were papers, a military jacket, and, at the bottom, a photo of my father in uniform. But it wasn't a normal picture. He was standing next to someone I didn't recognize. A woman, younger than my mother, and they were holding hands. The back of the photo was written in my father's handwriting, "She's mine, no one will find out." I stared at it for what felt like an eternity. What was this? The door behind me creaked. I spun around to find Rachel standing there, her fist pale and tight. "You're digging up things you shouldn't, Marcus," she said, her voice shaking. "You don't know what you're dealing with." I took a step back, my heart pounding. "What do you mean? Why didn't you tell me? What's really going on with Dad?" She took a deep breath, eyes shifting, and then said, in a voice barely above a whisper, "Mom and Dad never separated. He didn't die in that crash. He ran away with her." I froze. "He's been alive this whole time, and you've been living a lie." A cold knot formed in my stomach as I realized what this meant. If my father had been alive, if he'd been the one pulling the strings all along, hiding behind the shadows with Rachel, then everything I thought I knew about my family was a fraud. Rachel's eyes burned with something almost desperate. "We did what we had to do, Marcus. You wouldn't understand. Dad's been in hiding for years. He's the one who kept everything together. He's the reason we have this house, this money." I took a step toward her. "And what, you've been living off of his lies, destroying our mother's legacy?" Her face twisted. "We had no choice." I could feel the walls closing in. My breath caught in my throat as I said, "Where is he now? Rachel, where's Dad?" Rachel's eyes flickered with uncertainty. "He's waiting, but you'll never find him." I grabbed the letter from Linda's house out of my pocket and thrust it at her. "Why didn't you tell me this sooner? Why now?" She took a step back, her hands trembling. "Because if you find him, you'll ruin everything. He'll kill us all to protect what's his." The tension in the room was suffocating. My mind raced. My father alive. Hiding. All these years. And Rachel? She was scared. Not of me, but of something much worse. Suddenly, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a new message. From the same unknown number. "Your father isn't who you think he is. You want the truth? He's not in hiding. He's been dead all along." I couldn't breathe. I stared at my phone, eyes glued to the message that had just come through. "Your father isn't who you think he is. You want the truth? He's not in hiding. He's been dead all along." The words twisted my mind, unraveling everything I had ever believed about my family. I looked at Rachel, her face now an unreadable mask. She had said Dad was alive, hiding all these years, but now someone else, an anonymous source, was claiming the exact opposite. I swallowed hard. "Who sent this?" Rachel didn't answer. She just stared at me, eyes flickering toward the door. "Who sent this, Rachel?" I repeated, louder this time. She took a deep breath and finally spoke, but her voice was hollow. "It's over, Marcus. You don't want to know what's been buried. The truth will destroy you." I stepped closer. "Tell me, now." Her hands were trembling, and I saw the same fear in her eyes that I had seen in Aunt Linda's voice earlier. "Dad, he didn't die in the crash. He died after. He was killed." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean, killed? Who killed him?" Rachel's lips quivered as she glanced away. "Mom did." I felt like I was losing control of everything. like the ground beneath my feet had turned to quicksand. What, Mom? No, that's impossible. Rachel nodded slowly. It's true. She didn't want anyone to know. She couldn't let anyone find out. Sir, she made it look like an accident. She staged it, but she couldn't keep up the lie forever. I took a step back, struggling to breathe. No, Rachel, that's not possible. Mom knew. She knew what Dad had done. She knew about the money he'd hidden, about the people he betrayed. She had to make it look like he was dead so no one would come after her, so no one would know what she had done to protect you. I staggered back, grasping the back of the chair for support. What are you talking about? What did she protect me from? Rachel wiped her face with the back of her hand. From them, from the people who killed him, the ones who wanted to take everything. That's why she kept you away from the truth, because if you found out what really happened, they'd come after you too. The room spun. My mother, the woman I'd always trusted, had been hiding the darkest secret of all. She had been covering up my father's murder, and she had lied to me my entire life. I looked at Rachel, my mind racing. What do you mean? Who are these people? Her voice dropped to a whisper. The ones who took Dad's money, the ones he was running from, they've been watching us for years. The words were a blow to my chest, like I had just been punched in the gut. I needed answers, and I needed them now. Rachel, I swear to God, if you don't tell me everything, I will find out on my own, I said, my voice shaking with a mix of rage and fear. She hesitated, then nodded, her shoulders slumping. It wasn't just Uncle Greg. It was bigger, much bigger. There's a reason Greg's been trying to get you involved. He's been working with them all along. They've been laundering money through Mom's accounts, the inheritance, the house. It's all tainted with dirty money. I felt my legs weaken. This is insane. Who are these people? Rachel's eyes were wide, as if the weight of the truth was too much for her to bear. I don't know, but I know they are connected to the hospital, the people who made sure Mom signed those papers, the ones who made her believe she was sick, that she was dying. I ran a hand through my hair. So they controlled her, controlled everything? Rachel nodded. And they knew that once she was gone, you'd inherit everything. They didn't want that. They thought if they could get to you through the inheritance, they'd finally take control. I suddenly understood. The money, the manipulation, the forged world, it was all connected. But it was worse than I could ever have imagined. I grabbed my coat. I need to go to the police. I need to get this all on record. We can't let them get away with this. Rachel grabbed my arm, her grip tight. No, they'll kill us both. Marcus, if you go to the police, they'll kill you, and then they'll come for me. I shook my head. I can't live with this secret anymore. I have to do something. Rachel's face contorted in desperation. Then you leave, get out of here. I'll take care of everything else. But before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. Another message. You're too late. It's already started. You'll never see Rachel again. My heart skipped a beat. And then, before I could even process it, the door slammed open. Hey. Greg stood in the doorway, his gaunt face shadowed, a faint smile playing on his lips. He looked like a man who had been waiting for this moment for a long time. I froze. What do you want, Greg? My voice was low, cold with fear. Nothing, he said smoothly, his eyes glinting with malice. I'm just here to make sure things go according to plan. Rachel stepped back, her face pale, trembling. She seemed to shrink under Greg's gaze. You said you'd never come back here, she whispered, her voice a mix of disbelief and terror. I lied, Greg replied, his voice silky. And I knew you would eventually screw things up. Rachel, you always do. I took a step forward, every muscle in my body screaming to do something, anything. What have you done to her, Greg? He glanced at Rachel with a look of disdain, as if she were an insignificant piece of furniture. She's done nothing, Marcus. She's simply a tool in this game. I'm not here for her. I'm here for you. I felt a cold sweat break out on my skin. For me? Greg stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. You really don't get it, do you? Your father's death wasn't an accident. And your mother? She didn't die of natural causes. I killed her, just like I killed your father. My breath caught in my throat. You killed them? Greg gave a dark chuckle. Oh, it wasn't personal, but I needed control. Marcus, your mother wasn't going to let me have it, and neither was your father. She tried to hide everything, but she couldn't. I knew too much. She knew I was going to take the money, the power, the house, so I took her out of the picture, and then I made sure you would be too weak to fight. The world tilted. My father, my mother, both of them dead because of this man standing in front of me, smiling like he was proud of it. You're insane. My voice trembled with rage. You killed them because you wanted control. You used me and Rachel as pawns. Greg smiled coldly, pulling something from his jacket pocket. A small black envelope. He tossed it onto the table, and I could hear the contents rattle inside. Not just pawns, Marcus, he said, his voice lowering. You were the key to it all. Your inheritance is the final piece of the puzzle. You're going to sign over everything in the house, the business, the money to me, for I'll make sure Rachel suffers the same fate as your parents. I couldn't breathe. My body was paralyzed with fear and anger. You think I'll just roll over? You think I'll let you control me? You don't know who I am. Greg stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with an almost manic intensity. You don't have a choice. You and Rachel are my property. You've been for years. Now, sign it, and I'll leave you both alone. But I knew I couldn't sign. Not after everything I'd learned. Not after seeing the truth. I grabbed the envelope off the table and tore it open, hoping beyond hope that there was something in there that would change everything. Inside were papers. Signed by my mother, my father, and Rachel, but not me. The will wasn't just about money. It was a trap. Greg had forged the entire thing. But this time I had proof. I looked up at Greg, my voice steady despite the panic rising in my chest. You're not getting away with this. I'm going to the police. Greg's smile faded, and for a brief moment I saw real anger in his eyes. You think you can take me down? You're nothing but a weak, pathetic man. You've been manipulated your entire life, Marcus, and now you'll pay the price for it. He reached into his coat, pulling out a gun. Rachel gasped. Enough? In that instant, something clicked inside me. I couldn't let Greg win. I couldn't let him destroy everything my parents had worked for. And I couldn't let him hurt Rachel any more than he already had. I lunged forward, knocking the gun from his hand. We tumbled to the floor, the sound of struggle filling the room. I couldn't think. I just reacted, grabbing anything I could to defend myself. With a final burst of strength, I kicked Greg off me, sending him crashing into the wall. He stood up, blood trickling down from his lip. You don't know what you're messing with, Marcus. Do you think this is over? It's just begun. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I had the truth. I had the proof. And I wasn't going to let him destroy any more lives. Greg lunged at me again, but this time I was ready. I grabbed the nearest object, a heavy lamp, and swung it at him, knocking him out cold. Rachel was crying now, shaking. What do we do? What do we do now? I knelt beside her, looking at the mess around us. The lies. The betrayal. The destruction of our family. I looked at Greg's unconscious form. This ends here, Rachel. It's time we take back what's ours. The police were called. Greg was arrested, and the truth about my parents, about everything, finally came to light. The inheritance was frozen, the business was seized, and Rachel and I were left to pick up the pieces of our shattered family. But for the first time in a long while, I felt something I hadn't in years: hope. I wasn't a pawn anymore. I was in control.